Hello all, and welcome to another tutorial on how to replace a sky in Photoshop. Yes, just like anything in Photoshop, there are countless ways to replace skies. Most of the variation has to do with making selections. If you can select the sky and leave the rest, it's easier to bring in a replacement. There are many tutorials available, and many are good to watch. You'll likely learn techniques that can even help in other areas of your post-production processes. This video will show roughly how to replace a sky using the color range selection. No matter what process you use to replace your skies, one thing you want to do is develop a sky folder. You can find free sky images online, but it's a good idea to shoot your own when you're out and about. Get all kinds like sunsets, sunrises, cloudy, overcast, rainy, dramatic clouds, midday skies, nighttime skies, whatever. There will be all kinds of images where you're going to want to replace your sky, so it pays to accumulate a large variety of replacements. Let's start with an image where it's easy to make a color range selection. The background layer here would normally be a smart object processed through Camera Raw. For this video, I'll be using JPEG files, which will be quicker and still show how the process works. Either way, you'll go up to Select and choose Color Range. Now for this image, I'll simply select a spot in the blue sky and increase the fuzziness until it's the way I want it. Later we'll get into using these other eyedroppers, but as I said, this is an easy selection. Hit OK when ready. I always save the selection in case I mess it up, so go back up to Select and drop down to Save Selection. Name it anything you want. I'll use Sky. Then hit OK. You can use keyboard shortcut Control-D to deselect. To add a sky, we move up to File, select Place Embedded, then navigate to your Skies folder to see what might work. It's important to select a sky that is consistent with the rest of the image, the same lighting coming from the same direction, and a sky that fits both in size, air quality, and time of day. Some skies here have birds in them and might work nicely, so let's choose one to start. Select one you like, then hit Place. It's usually a good idea to lower the opacity of the layer to see where it's going. Unlike most exposures, for this one the sky covers parts of the whole image. Normally you'll just need it toward the top of your image, and you'd move it around and resize it to look right. For this one, I'll cover it all and click Enter to commit. The next step is to add a layer mask to the new layer. Let's bring up the opacity. Be sure the sky layer is highlighted, then go down here and click on the mask. Now, make sure you're on the mask. Hit B for the brush tool. Be sure it's on brush and not pen, and make sure you're at total black. Hitting keyboard shortcut D will assure black is on top, but also check up here to be sure the brush opacity is at 100%. Then go back to Select and choose Load Selection. Find your sky, invert it, then push OK. Your layer now shows marching ants of your selection. For this easy one, you would simply paint over the entire image with your brush, then process as you normally would, making sure both layers receive the same treatment, which of course adds to the authenticity in your final photo. We knew this sky was a mismatch for the image, but now we can show how to replace it once your mask has been made. If you ever need to move the sky after you've masked it, make sure to uncouple the mask from the layer by clicking off this link icon here. Then use Control-T to bring up the free transform tool. You can move it or resize it as you like, then hit Enter to commit it. If you want to try a different sky at this point, right-click on the layer, choose Replace Contents, navigate back to your Skies folder, choose one, then hit Place. This one needs some resizing, so again hit the Control-T to bring up the free transform tool. Here I'm resizing while holding down the Shift key, which keeps the aspect ratio the same, but it's not necessary, and sometimes you'll actually prefer to change it to fit. Get it the way you want it, then hit Enter. At this point we're done with this example, but I do want to point out why it probably doesn't look quite right to you. The cloud size and time of day are a good match, but the lighting is off. You see the shadow on this side of the bird and how the light is coming from this direction? Your brain will tell you, whether you listen or not, that there's something wrong with what you're seeing. It's often the little things that foils your attempts. So let's move on to part 2. Here's another bird on a wall of blue, which will make for an easy selection. We can see how the light is coming toward her back. I don't know if it's a male or female. I have ornithology experts I can consult, but for our purposes here, it's just a bird. Going up to Select and choosing Color Range, we can see that our last settings are still set, and they'll work pretty well here too. Notice this slightly gray area toward the bottom. If we click on the plus eyedropper, then click on that area, it makes the selection even better. Hit OK, then go back to Select and save it. There are quicker ways to add a selection to a mask, but I prefer this one, which has a healthy respect for Murphy's Law. Now let's find a sky to add. Go to File, Place Embedded. For this one, I've already selected a sky with a daylight moon in it. So we'll place that, and we'll lower the opacity to move it around kind of how we want it. Again, I'm going to shift and drag in order to keep the aspect ratio the same. I kind of like the way that looks there, so I'll hit enter to commit it. Well, let's bring up the opacity and add our layer mask to the sky layer. Go back up to Select and load the selection, find the sky, invert it. We could have inverted it when we saved it, but this is the way I do things. Again, it's a simple selection, so just brush it all away. Control D to deselect. Sometimes when you're done at this point, you're going to want to change some things with either of the layers, like darken one and brighten the other, or change some colors in one or the other. But I just wanted to show in this video how to do the selections with the color selection. So we'll move on to part 3. Well, I have a few more things to talk about in replacing skies, but like to keep these videos short. I talk fast to save your time, and you always have the ability to pause and replay. There's enough stuff in this video to get you started. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, either in comments below or through my website, parksphotos.com. Good day.